Well, you can see it's been a pretty busy day at College Church this morning. We talked about how we share the gospel with evangelistic integrity. Started by saying many of us are either too aggressive or we're too passive. If we're too aggressive, then we're self-confident, we're starting conversations where there aren't any, sometimes manipulating conversations. We have a high awareness of what the Spirit is saying, but not a lot of awareness of how people are feeling when we talk. If we're too passive, it's exactly the opposite. We have low self-confidence, almost self-doubt. We miss conversations when they're right in front of us, and we have a high external self-awareness. That is, we're always worried about what people are thinking, that we sometimes can't hear what the Spirit is saying inside of us. The way through this is to witness with evangelistic intelligence, which we said is a combination of three personalities. There is me, there is the other person, and there is the Holy Spirit. And all three of these are active before, during, and after the conversation that we're having. So if we begin by going into every conversation by praying to the Spirit, God, lead me, bring me to the right people, and help me find the conversations where I can honor your name. That would be an enormous help in the way that we help bring people into spiritual conversations. That's the first step. The second step is to lead with questions more than statements. And if you think about it, most of our conversations today happen more like statements. We're talking at or past each other. So we spent a lot of time talking about what it means to listen. Otto Scharmer has written a book called Theory U, and he defined 4 levels of listening in a conversation. The first he calls downloading, where we just talk past each other, sharing our convictions, our opinions, and facts. The second he calls learning, where we actually listen to someone else in order to hear perspectives or details that we didn't know before. But the reason we're doing it is because when we get to talk again in a few minutes, we're going to try to overcome or disarm what that other person said. So you can see how that starts to grind a conversation to a halt. In the third level, a bit deeper, he talks about feeling, where we start to empathize with another person, what it's like for them, to have their limitations, to have their experiences, to live where they live and have their network of friends. And we don't offer any fast solutions until we start to hear things that we're looking for. And when we do, then we typically advise. But in the deepest level, what he calls presencing, we come alongside of another person and we stay there. We let go of our agenda, let go of our ego. I don't have to look good here. And we let go of control. I don't have to steer this conversation toward any particular end. It can move at its own speed, take whatever shape it wants, and end however it's going to end. I don't have to do everything in one day. Obviously, you can see why many Christians struggle with presencing, because there are so many levels of uncertainty. We go into conversations thinking we have the answer and we can't wait to share it, that we don't even listen. So we have to move in our witnessing from high levels of certainty into levels of uncertainty. Partway through this relationship or conversation, I don't know what the answer is. Back again to levels of clarity, where together with the other person, we co-create what the gospel is. This is why listening with different dialects before we speak is so essential. If a person is in bondage, then we know that Jesus is their freedom, that all of their desires are met fully and forever in Him. If their problem is blindness, they run into things, get into trouble, and they don't know why, then Jesus is their wisdom. He is the one from God that shows them a better life. If they're afraid of dying, then the message is that Jesus is life. He not only resurrects, He is the resurrection and the life. So in dying, we're actually coming more fully alive. If their problem is shame, then we know that Jesus is their innocence. He takes everything that's happened in their past and weaves it into a future for them that is incredible, and that's the good news. So again and again, what you're hearing is we have to learn to ask questions that help people express the dilemma or the struggle that they're in. And while we're listening, we're discerning what the Holy Spirit is saying to them. This week, I bet you'll have lots of opportunities. I know I will. I'm praying that you'll not hijack a conversation, but you'll see the opportunity that is already in the conversations you have. This time tomorrow, Monday or Tuesday, you'll be surrounded by people that were not in church, in conversations you can't predict or control. My prayer for you this week is that God will fill you with His favor and anoint you with His Holy Spirit.